White lies, can you think of any? Off the top of your head?
Once in a while I have the be there in 5 minutes, and I know that I'm so much more than 5 minutes away from where I'm heading, but
yeah, that's a small white lie.
We're just keeping people in the loop. So are the splits. This is 94 and 494 up in Maple Grove, where we have the traffic flowing right along, heading eastbound, this being 94, this being 494, and so far no backup. Sometimes we start to see the conditions get a little jammed up in the 6 to the 7 o'clock hour, the Northwest Metro, one of our earliest traffic areas. This is a peak at 94, one of really our only troubled spots so far this morning, and this is just a stalled vehicle here, 94 westbound at Snelling. It looks like, drivers, you can see for yourself a live picture that we're cruising right along by that without any, and that means 55 miles per hour or better. Really, so far we're not seeing the color popping up anywhere except maybe where you hit a stoplight. But I'll be here all morning to let you know if we do run into some trouble. Let's talk about the weather, though. For those of you wanting to take it, well, if you like the nice weather, today will be a day you enjoy. If you want the snow, of course, you'll be waiting a little bit longer for that. But for most drivers, a day without snow is a day of smooth sailing out on our roadway. So if you're about to head out the door, we're looking good. This is Highway 10 and 65. We do see that eastbound traffic on Highway 10 building from Coon Rapids into Blaine, but it's looking like it's a pretty mild start, as just like our weather, so is the traffic. Checking out 35W at County Road 10. This is one of the spots where we have seen some slowing this morning. Basically heading from Lionel Lakes southbound down through the Mounds View area. We're seeing some reduced speeds, but for the most part, we're cruising at 55 to 60 miles per hour. The cars are just getting a little bit closer together. This is looking 94 up in the Northwest Metro. You see mostly eastbound traffic getting heavy here at Highway 101. This is in the Rogers area, and then you continue on eastward toward Maple Grove. That's where we tend to see the slowing start earliest as far as when you look at the scope here. So when we see green, we know we're still moving at 55 miles per hour, and that's what we like to see. We do have one stalled vehicle out there. That's really the only traffic issue we're dealing with, and so far no major slowdowns. It's 94 westbound right at Snelling Avenue. We see cars cruising along without any trouble. That vehicle looks like it's pulled way off on the shoulder. Again, that northwest quadrant is where we see the most activity early on in our morning, and Highway 10 eastbound is definitely, we're seeing more and more drivers head on out, but still no major slowdowns, no brake light action that we're worried about. Of course, I'll be standing by to let you know if we see some of that, and we will, especially as we get closer to that 7 o'clock hour. But for now, guys, back over to you.
Thank you, Kelsey. Coming up,
because you may be needing it, sounds like, with the weather we're going to be having. Feeling a little bit like spring out there. It'll be looking a little bit like spring as you drive around, and you may see some splash up on the vehicle, and we actually will see some spring construction. Just kidding, it's not spring construction, but it is construction. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, a few crashes out there slowing things down. This is in St. Louis Park at Highway 100. If you're heading in the southbound direction here at 27th Street, we're now seeing that southbound traffic slowed back up through Robbinsdale into Crystal. We're hoping to get this cleared in time to avoid that real congested time of the morning commute, which starts at about 7 o'clock, but it looks like so far we're not getting that cleared. And moving it to the side has only done so much because it's a pretty slim shoulder. So prepare for some slowdown. They're decreasing, but some of that still has to do with the stoplights out there. Checking out that construction I mentioned down at the 169-494 junction. Now, the construction here never really stopped. We continue to see that even on some of the snow days. But today, what you'll be seeing between 10 and 2 o'clock is that between 494 and Valley View Road, 169 will be losing a lane in both directions. So some slowing will proceed from that. Hopefully, won't be major for most of you since it doesn't impact the morning or evening commute, but still kind of interesting that we're seeing some construction. I guess that's what nice weather will do for you, even in the wintertime. Guys, over to you.
Yeah, right. All right. Thanks, Kelsey.
Today, and usually that means easier going road conditions, but today, not necessarily a case of easy traffic conditions. We have a major slowdown right now, a major traffic jam underway in the Woodbury area. 494, it appears that a semi-truck that was traveling eastbound ended up in the median, jackknifed. Now, the semi itself isn't blocking any of the traffic, but it hit a light pole, and that is now laying over across lanes of traffic. Now, I'm trying to figure out if it's on the westbound or the eastbound side. This traffic camera not quite clear, but we do see that the heavier traffic is actually headed in the westbound direction. So if you're going to be going through Woodbury or Newport, expect you're going to see some major slowdowns. Right now, traffic just barely getting by in some spots. A lot of brake lights, a lot of slowdowns. Let's see if we can go to another view a little bit farther east from Valley Creek Road. You can see that westbound traffic basically at a dead stop at the moment. Again, it was reported that the jackknife semi itself got sort of started with its trouble on the eastbound side, but as you can see, it is both areas, both sides of traffic on 494 right now that is slow going. So this may be an area where if you have an alternate route, you're going to want to try to avoid. This is obviously an extraneous circumstance, something we don't usually usually see. So the traffic patterns in this area will be different than we're used to. Looking to another spot out there, we have a backup of traffic. This is 94 up in the Northwest Metro as you're coming into the Maple Grove area. We had a crash report at 95th Avenue. Now heading eastbound, you already have a lot of traffic in this region, especially as you get to that 94-494 split in Maple Grove. So you add an accident to the mix and you're definitely going to see it's a big one we're monitoring right now. Make sure we know exactly what we're talking about in that Newport Woodbury area. So that stretch now east and westbound backing up as you approach Highway 61. I'll keep watching that for you and bring you an update in about 10 minutes, guys.
We'll see you then.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Back to the Fox 9 Morning News. A happy Monday to you. We're going to be seeing warming temps throughout the day, so hopefully any slick spots you might be finding out on the roadways right now will melt away. But right now, the big news out on our roadway is that in Woodbury, a crash involving a semi-truck now resulting in a major backup in both directions. So heads up if you're traveling through Newport or Woodbury and using 494, you're going to be sitting in a major traffic jam. Here's what happened. The semi-truck you now see in the median was traveling eastbound on 494 about half hour ago or so. Jackknifed, ended up, as you can see, right where it is now. No reports of any injuries. That's the good news. The bad news, however, is it hit a light pole that ended up across lanes of traffic. Now, we're not seeing from this particular bird's eye view the light pole laying any particular place, unless you can see better than I can. But the obvious result is we're seeing slowdowns in both directions. So let's go a little bit farther to the east. So this is westbound traffic trying to approach the scene of that crash. Again, that's around 494 just before Highway 61. Plenty of brake lights, so we're moving slow if at all. Now going a little bit farther west of the scene of the crash, this is the eastbound traffic trying to head toward that crash. So the message here is if you do have an alternate route and can stay off of 494 in this area between basically Carver Avenue and Valley Creek Drive, Valley Creek Road, one of the two, you're going to be much better off. Let's go Woodbury, sort of that area between the two cities, and it's that eastbound traffic that's particularly heavy right now, but as you saw in the jam cams, really both sides of traffic affected. In the Northwest Metro, an accident at 95th Avenue also impacting traffic flow as you get into Maple Grove. Northeast, at least crash-free, but still some heavy congestion since we're in the 7 o'clock hour, and in the south side of town, a crash at Burnsville Parkway, now slowing northbound traffic. So we're not without our trouble spots out there, so stay tuned. I'll be back with an update in about 15 minutes. But first, let's get out to M.A. Roscoe. A traffic problem in the southeast metro continues to be a big headache for commuters over in that region this morning. Heads up if you're traveling through Newport or Woodbury and you're using 494, you will be sitting in some traffic that you're definitely not used to. Here's what happened. The semi-truck you now see in the median was traveling eastbound, ended up jackknifing, ended up where you see it now. It has not been moved, obviously, and usually something this large takes some special towing equipment, so difficult to believe that we'd maybe see this get removed before the morning commute is over. So here's the message. You're going to want to avoid 494 in this region if possible. Eastbound traffic, as you can see, very slow going. Looking a little bit farther west, you see the eastbound traffic now definitely at a dead stop starting in Newport. This is really basically at Highway 61 where you see the sea of brake lights beginning. And then you go east of the accident and you see 494 westbound slow as well. So even though the accident itself started on the eastbound side, it's both sides of traffic being impacted. A light pole was hit in the whole process, and that was laying across some lanes for a time as well. So all of this adding up to be one big traffic mess. So just something to think about. Better off going out of your way and going on 61, 52, or 35E northbound, trying to get up to 94 rather than trying to fight that trouble we're seeing on 494. Some of that hard orangish red color you're seeing, that's where we see those stop and go conditions. Now a few other areas seeing some slow spots as well. The Northwest Metro 94 eastbound still trying to play catch up after a crash at 95th Avenue. 169 southbound, no accident there, but definitely particularly heavy through the New Hope area. Northeast, not so much trouble this morning, just some of the typical hot spots as far as the congestion goes, but 35W northbound, a little more of a reduced speed at Burnsville Parkway than normal due to a crash in that area. Also, this just in 94 westbound at Lyndale, a crash there as well. So even though the weather's been pretty cooperative today, guys, still plenty of crashes out there giving us some trouble. So I'll be standing by with an update in about 10 minutes.
Right, not what we want to hear on a Monday.
I know.
Right?
Hey everyone, happy Monday to you. Troubling situation on 494. Not seeing much improvement over the course of the morning after a jackknife semi ended up in the median and now reports that there may be some diesel fuel leaking. Now, we're not saying that anyone is in danger at this point or anyone needs to panic. The thing is, you just may want to avoid this area because the traffic is not improving much. This jackknife semi, this whole situation went down about an hour ago, and it looks like it involved a light pole as well, and that for a time was laying across some of the lanes of the interstate. You can imagine how that would make things a little bit congested in that area. So as we're looking, eastbound traffic very slow going. This is where the actual semi was traveling before it ended up in the median. The westbound traffic, though, actually even worse. So let's look a little bit east of the situation. That westbound traffic actually improving a bit, finally managing to get by the scene of the crash. Not so much if you're heading in the eastbound direction toward the crash. So if you have an opportunity to use an alternate route, this would be your day to do that because it's going to be slow going. This is in the Newport and Woodbury right here. That orange color indicating we do have some stop and go speeds. Now here's something that's sort of a spillover effect from the congestion in this area. We're now seeing westbound traffic on 494 as you go toward the direction of Inver Grove Heights getting pretty backed up. I think it's one of those things where drivers are hearing about the crash or seeing the results of it and they're turning around trying to head in another direction. One thing to note, 61 northbound, 52 northbound, and 35E northbound probably a better option as you're trying to get up to 94 versus trying to sit through that jam up at 494. To the Northwest Metro, 94 traffic has improved after a crash at 95th Avenue was cleared. However, we have 2 new crashes in this area. This is a look at 252 southbound just before 694, a crash up there in Brooklyn Center. Not a major backup because at 755, most of our traffic in that area pushing southbound has moved a little bit farther south. 394 eastbound onto 94 eastbound, a crash reported there as well. Up on the north side of town, 61 southbound just before 694, a crash there as well. And on the south side, you're not alone. You have some trouble too. 35W northbound at Burnsville Parkway, a crash there. 494 westbound crash near 12th Avenue. That finally clears, so hopefully we'll see things ease up. So busy morning in the world of traffic, even though we were so happy.
And give me your impression. I love it from the Mary Tyler.
Oh, Rob!
Isn't that great? Love that.
Actually, that's from, with Dick Van Dyke.
That was the first,
But I love Mary Tyler.
Yeah, she's just great.
Just great. Still do.
Yep. Kelsey's in. We're not loving the commute on this Monday. We've had crashes, even though the weather isn't, really to blame.
Right. We were expecting sort of a mild commute, just like the live picture right now as crews continue to try and work on the situation. We've been told that there's diesel fuel leaking. No reason to panic, but just something they're monitoring. About 60 to 70 traffic posts went down in the process of this semi-truck ending in the ditch. No injuries reported. That's the good news, but because it's such a large vehicle, it's going to take some time to get the proper equipment in there to get it removed. So eastbound traffic and westbound traffic slow going. Plenty of emergency crews on the scene here, and that's making things a little bit challenging for those of you commuters heading in this direction. This isn't the only spot, though, we're seeing our trouble, despite the fact this is probably the most visual one. Those are those traffic posts we're looking at right now that are all folded downward, as you saw the semi not doing so well, and a light pole involved in this as well. For a time, part of the trouble wasn't necessarily a vehicle in the way, but a light pole laying in the lanes of traffic. Not something you need to cross the interstate during that morning commute. So if you or a friend or someone is traveling to the Southeast Metro, something to keep in mind. This is definitely not a usual circumstance. 52 northbound, another effect of that crash. We're seeing northbound traffic very slow as you 1 and 35E, probably all better options in 494, but keep in mind you may see some heavier congestion on those roadways as well. Check out these yellow indicators. Those are where we still have crashes throughout our metro area, so definitely not a morning without its troubles. Some slowdowns still being reported in those areas, but hopefully as we get closer to 8:30, things will wind down. I'll have another update in about 20 minutes, but for now, let's talk more about our weather. Maybe much of an improvement, unfortunately, at least in the westbound direction. So here's the deal. This is Newport through Woodbury. If you're traveling this region, even though it's 8:30 where we typically see traffic wind down, well, it's still a slow go there. So if you have the option, I'd still find an alternate route, especially if you're headed in the eastbound direction. That would be here. Although it looks like just by the crash site, we're starting to see the traffic speed pick up. So maybe not the worst idea to try this out, but for now, check it out a little bit farther west of here. We do still have some traffic, slow going conditions starting at Bailey Road and not improving much until you get right here. So what happened? The semi-truck jackknifed heading eastbound on 494 from Newport into Woodbury. That area ended up hitting about 60 to 70 traffic posts, starting to leak a little bit of diesel fuel. It hit a light pole, which ended up laying on the lanes of traffic. Never a good thing during the morning commute. Westbound traffic came to a slowdown as well, just basically due because of all the emergency vehicles out there. So looking at Metro that has been impacted. 61 northbound, better option than trying to take 494 up to 94. However, 52 got a little slow for a time. Looks like many people tried that as their alternate. So just a few things to think about. As far as the rest of the metro area goes, things are definitely winding down. We're getting back to green, so we're starting to move at 55 miles per hour. Once again, 494 in the crosstown still, though, active at this hour. So that's it for me in the world of traffic. Hope to see that 494 situation improve. Alex.
Thank you, Kel.